We continue now with our Great American panel. The ongoing challenge here in New York of the mosque at Ground Zero. Let's talk about that. We have heard some really disturbing words out of the imam who is in fact behind that mosque. I think we ought to play those words and then we can talk after that.
I'm not a politician. I try to avoid the issues of the issue of terrorism is a very complex question, and I'm a bridge builder.
But I'm asking though, is Hamas a terrorist organization?
I've defined my work as a bridge builder. I do not want to be placed, neither will I accept to be placed in a position of being put in a position where I am the target of one side or another.
Deneen, do you think this is an issue that has to do with freedom of religion?
He's being very careful with his words, but this goes beyond freedom of religion. And the American people are not happy with this, New York and across the country. But my question is, where is the money coming from for this? And what construction company in their right mind would touch this project, especially if they worked on the World Trade Center disaster cleanup effort? It's ridiculous.
Rich, you've clearly got the man who's in charge of this project unwilling to say that Hamas is a terrorist organization, and yet Mayor Bloomberg here in New York refuses to come out and say he's got any issue whatsoever. In fact, he's been very strongly supportive of the mosque. What's your sense about the likelihood that we'll be able to do anything to stop this?
Well, I mean, the whole bridge building thing is so obviously such a ridiculous canard. If you want to build a bridge between decent Muslims and people in the United States, a very worthy goal, the first place you start is by condemning terrorism and organizations like Hamas. One. Two, if you want to build bridges and lower the temperature and all those nice things, you don't build a mosque right adjacent to the worst act of terrorism we've ever seen on U.S. soil. That's just obvious. And it has nothing to do with freedom of religion. If you drew a 10 or 15 block radius around Ground Zero and say, go build this community center or this mosque or whatever it is, their story changes about what exactly it's going to be. No one would object to it. Now, maybe they should object to it because of some of the associations of these people and where the money might come from ultimately. But in principle, no one would object to building such a structure elsewhere.
Doug, Tom Friedman has suggested that if, in fact, this imam is as concerned as he says he is with building bridges, he ought to be building his mosque someplace in the Arab world where radical Islam, in fact, is got a foothold. What do you think of that idea?
I think that's a good idea. I'm all for building bridges. I'm also all for answering questions. And I think that the question about where the money came from and his views of Hamas are legitimate questions to be answered. I think Rich is right. You can build a mosque in lots of different locations and encourage tolerance. The sad thing to me is we're not getting answers to questions that I think deserve answers.
I knew sometime during this panel, Doug would feel compelled by the blinding righteousness and the clarity of my points to say Rich is right, at least once during this panel.
Of course.
Well, I don't get Bloomberg at all, the nanny state mayor. He's so more concerned about salt, trans fats, and bottled water than looking to investigate really what's going on here.
Whether you agree or disagree with the mayor, it took courage for him to make the speech that he did. The question is getting answers from the imam to really legitimate questions. What's the purpose of the facility?
He refuses to do that.
Who's funding it? And what does he think about issues that he has to answer? We need answers as a civil society if he's going to go forward.
Well, and you can be courageous and wrong.
You can.
So,
you can be. But you know what? The imam, given what the mayor did, owes, I think, us the responsibility of answering legitimate questions.
Well, I hope
think
Mayor
it's
Bloomberg
morally
is
wrong.
watching tonight because I think that we've shown this again is not a partisan issue.
I think he's been courageous. I think he's stood up for tolerance.
No one disputes the principle that he is enunciating, the mayor. In that sense, it's uncontroversial. What people object to is a specific application and the tastefulness of doing it right there.
I think it's
All right,
morally
we got to
wrong.
close, but I think we've shown that there's agreement on this.